Imagine the world in the early 1930s, a time of economic distress, political instability, and social unrest. The aftershock of the Great War was still palpable, and the world was in the grip of a severe economic depression. Unemployment was rampant and poverty was widespread. The Treaty of Versailles, intended to ensure peace, had instead sowed the seeds of resentment, particularly in Germany. In the midst of this turbulence, a charismatic yet ominous figure emerged: Adolf Hitler. Exploiting the discontent and frustration of the German people, Hitler and his National Socialist German Workers' Party, better known as the Nazi Party, ascended to power in 1933. His promises of restoring Germany's glory resonated with the masses, leading to an unprecedented consolidation of power. Under Hitler's regime, Germany began its transformation into a totalitarian state, where civil liberties were trampled and dissent was crushed. Thus began one of the darkest chapters in human history, the era of the Third Reich. With control of Germany in their grasp, the Nazis were quick to implement their ideologies. No sooner had they consolidated power than the Nazis began to enact a series of policies that were as chilling as they were far-reaching. Anti-Semitic laws were quickly put in place, marginalizing Jewish citizens and setting the stage for the horrors to come. Parallel to the legislative assault, the Nazis established concentration camps, turning their twisted fantasies of racial purity into a grim reality. These camps would soon become the sites of unspeakable atrocities, a haunting testament to the depths of human depravity. But the Nazis knew that brute force alone wouldn't suffice. They needed to control the narrative, and for that, they turned to propaganda. Through films, radio broadcasts, and print media, they manipulated public opinion, painting themselves as the saviors of Germany while demonizing those they deemed undesirable. The Third Reich had begun its campaign of terror, and the world was yet to comprehend the extent of its horror. The Third Reich's aggression was not confined to Germany. By 1939, they had ignited the Second World War. The world watched in trepidation as the Nazi regime expanded its territories, starting with the invasion of Poland. This act of aggression marked the official commencement of World War II, and with it, the beginning of one of the darkest chapters in human history: the Holocaust. The Holocaust was a systematic, state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million Jews by the Nazi regime. But the horror did not stop there. Millions of other people, deemed undesirable or dissenters by the Nazis, also fell victim to this horrendous genocide. The Nazis' relentless pursuit of a racially pure state led them to target a myriad of other groups, including the Romani, people with disabilities, Slavs, communists, socialists, Jehovah's Witnesses, and homosexuals, to name a few. This was a time of unfathomable cruelty and inhumanity, where concentration and extermination camps became factories of death. Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor, these names have become synonymous with the Nazis' brutal extermination policy. Innocent men, women, and children were stripped of their identities, forced into labor, and ultimately led to their deaths. The scale and mechanization of the Holocaust were unprecedented. It was a genocide carried out on an industrial scale, a chilling testament to what can happen when hatred and prejudice are allowed to flourish unchecked. The Nazis utilized the full might of the state's bureaucratic machinery to facilitate mass murder, turning human beings into numbers and statistics. As World War II progressed, the Nazis continued their expansion and persecution. However, their actions did not go unnoticed. Reports of their atrocities started to filter out to the world, shocking and horrifying those who heard them. By the mid-1940s, the terrifying reality of the Third Reich's atrocities had become clear to the world. The world was left to grapple with the profound and disturbing reality of the Holocaust, a genocide that would forever scar the conscience of humanity and change the course of history. As the tide of war began to turn, so too did the fortunes of the Third Reich. In the waning days of the Second World War, the Allied forces, driven by a resolute determination to end the tyranny, began to push back against the Third Reich. This resistance culminated in the fall of Berlin, a symbolic and strategic blow to Hitler's regime. The downfall did not end with the city's fall, but with the death of Adolf Hitler in the spring of 1945, marking the end of an era steeped in terror and atrocities. Post-war, the world was left to grapple with the aftermath. The Nuremberg trial served as a grim reminder of the horrors unleashed by the Third Reich, bringing key figures to justice. Meanwhile, the denazification process sought to eradicate the pernicious ideology from German society, a challenging but necessary endeavor. Thus, the reign of the Third Reich ended, leaving behind a legacy of terror that the world pledges never to forget.